My name is Maribel Cross, and for 3 years, I cleaned the top floors of a glass tower in downtown Chicago while men in tailored suits stepped around me like I was part of the furniture. I was 32 then, too old to be naive and too tired to be foolish, but my boss, Conrad Pike, never understood that. To him, I was the woman with the mop, the quiet one, the one with tired hands, cheap shoes, and a soft southern accent he mocked whenever he thought no one important was listening. He called me slow. He called me invisible. One night, in front of 2 young assistants, he snapped his fingers at me and said, "Mop girl, clean faster. Some of us do real work up here." They laughed because he laughed. I lowered my eyes, but not because I was weak. I lowered them because my mother had taught me that dignity does not have to shout. I had come to Chicago from a small town in Kentucky after my father died from a stroke, and my mother's arthritis became so bad she could barely hold a spoon. We had never been rich. Our house had a sagging porch, a rusted mailbox, and a kitchen table covered with old medicine bottles. But we had pride. My father used to tell me, "Maribel, people may judge your clothes, but God measures your character." I carried those words with me when I left home with 1 suitcase, 2 dresses, and a photograph of my parents tucked inside my Bible. The city scared me at first. It was loud, hard, and cold in a way small towns never are. But I needed work, and work was what I found. Night cleaning. 6 in the evening to 2 in the morning. 52 floors, trash bags, bathrooms, fingerprints on glass, coffee rings on desks, and the lemon smell of industrial soap in my hair when I went to sleep. Conrad Pike ran the private investment division on the 52nd floor. He was handsome in the polished, expensive way cruel men can be. Silver hair, navy suits, a watch worth more than my mother's house. He never said good evening. He never said thank you. Once, he backed into me while carrying a cup of hot coffee, spilled it across his own imported rug, then screamed so loudly the secretary outside froze in her chair. "You stupid woman," he said, pointing at the stain like it was a crime scene. "Do you understand anything, or do you just breathe and drag that bucket around?" The coffee had splashed my wrist and burned my skin, but he only cared about the carpet. I knelt down and scrubbed while my eyes burned hotter than the coffee. That night I almost quit. But then I pictured my mother trying to open her pill bottle with swollen fingers, and I stayed. Now, listen closely, because this is where people like Conrad always make their mistake. They think kindness means weakness. They think silence means stupidity. They think a woman who cleans their trash cannot understand the trash they hide. If you have ever been dismissed because of your job, your age, your accent, or the way you look, then stay with this story. Because sometimes the person they underestimate is the one standing closest to the truth. It happened on a Wednesday night in late November. The city was under a hard rain, the kind that beats against glass like gravel. Most of the office had emptied by 9, but Conrad was still behind his door, pacing and talking on the phone. I was vacuuming the hallway when the machine suddenly coughed and died. In that silence, his voice cut through the door. "The transfer goes tonight," he said. 4.8 million, split it through the Bahama account, then close the vendor file before Whitaker's audit team comes in. I stopped breathing. My hand stayed frozen on the vacuum handle. Then he said the words that made my blood turn cold. "Don't worry about June Keller. She's old, confused, and perfect to blame. By Monday, everyone will think she approved the payments." June Keller was a 70-year-old accounts clerk who brought homemade banana bread to the cleaning staff every Christmas. She had just lost her husband. Conrad was not only stealing from the company, he was preparing to destroy an innocent old woman to save himself. I should have walked away. That is what fear told me to do. Fear said, "Maribel, you have rent. You have a sick mother. Men like Conrad win because they own the building, and you only clean it." But my father's voice rose inside me like a church bell. Do what is right, even when your hands shake. Conrad kept talking. He mentioned a black binder, not a red folder, and said it was locked in the bottom drawer of his private credenza behind the desk. He laughed as if the whole world belonged to him. "Nobody checks paper anymore," he said. "That's why fools get robbed." When he finally left for the night, he passed me in the hallway and sneered, "Still here, mop girl. Try not to steal the silver." He did not know I had heard every word. He did not know the old woman he planned to frame had once given me $5 for bus fare when my paycheck was late. He did not know I was finished being afraid. After the elevator doors closed behind him, I stood alone on that shining floor with rain running down the windows like black tears. I went into his office. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. His private credenza was polished walnut, heavy and expensive, with brass handles that looked like they belonged in a mansion. The first drawer held liquor. The second held envelopes. The bottom drawer was locked. For one awful second, I almost laughed at myself. What was I doing? I was a cleaner with a cracked phone and a bus pass. Then I noticed his arrogance sitting right there on the desk. A small brass key beside his cigar cutter, half covered by a folded restaurant receipt. Men like Conrad did not fear people like me enough to hide things properly. That was his first real mistake. I opened the drawer. Inside was the black binder, thick and neatly labeled with fake vendor names. I knew enough about numbers to understand evil when I saw it. My father had run the books for our church for 20 years, and as a girl I used to sit beside him adding columns by hand. These pages showed payments moving from company accounts into shell vendors, then into offshore accounts. There were signatures, there were routing numbers. There was Conrad Pike's name beside approvals he had hidden inside old purchase files. And there, near the back, was a memo drafted to blame June Keller for irregular approvals due to cognitive decline. My hands went cold. He had already written the lie. He was going to steal millions and bury an elderly widow under it. I did not take the binder. That would have been foolish, and I had been called foolish enough for one lifetime. Instead, I took out my cracked phone, turned off the flash, and photographed everything under the soft desk lamp. Page after page, signature after signature. Fake vendor lists, offshore account numbers, the memo about June. I took 43 photos. Then I recorded a short video of the binder sitting inside his locked drawer, the key in my hand, and the office around me, so no one could say I invented it. Before I closed the drawer, I whispered, "You picked the wrong cleaner, Mr. Pike." It was not loud. It did not need to be. Revenge does not always slam doors. Sometimes revenge is a steady hand taking clear pictures. Before I go on, remember this. Truth needs courage, but it also needs proof. Anger alone can be dismissed. Tears can be mocked. But proof has a voice even powerful men cannot silence. That night, I did not act from hatred. I acted because an innocent woman was about to be ruined, and because my mother did not raise me to watch a thief wear a king's suit. Downstairs, I wrote a letter to Harlan Whitaker, the company founder. He was an old man with white hair and a straight-backed way of walking. I had seen him only twice, but both times he had held the elevator for employees who were not important. That mattered to me. My letter was simple but sharp. I told him Conrad Pike was stealing through fake vendors. I told him June Keller was being framed. I told him where the binder was, where the key was, and that I had photographs if he needed them. I printed the photos using the small night printer in the records room, then sealed everything in a brown envelope. There was a secure drop box outside Mr. Whitaker's executive suite. My hand shook when I slid the envelope through the slot. Once it fell, there was no taking it back. My life, my job, my mother's medicine, all of it could collapse by morning. But as I stood there under the quiet lights, I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt clean in a way no soap could make me. For 2 days, nothing happened. Conrad came to work in his beautiful suits. He snapped at assistants. He cursed into his phone. He walked past June Keller without looking at her, though she smiled at him kindly. On Friday afternoon, he humiliated me again, this time in the lobby while several managers watched. I had been polishing the brass elevator rail when he dropped a stack of files at my feet on purpose. Papers scattered across the floor. "Pick them up," he said. "That is what you're paid for." I bent down slowly, gathered every page, and handed them back. He leaned close enough for me to smell his expensive cologne. "Women like you should be grateful men like me keep the lights on." I looked straight into his eyes for the first time. "Yes, sir," I said softly. "Lights are useful. They show what is hidden." His smile faltered for half a second. Then he walked away. At 6:15 that evening, the storm arrived. Not rain this time. Men in dark coats came through the lobby with 2 police officers and Mr. Whitaker's personal attorney. They did not run. They moved with calm authority, which was somehow more frightening. The lobby went silent. Elevators opened. They went up. 20 minutes later, the doors opened again, and Conrad Pike came out between 2 officers with his wrists cuffed behind his back. His face was gray, his tie was crooked. His kingdom had ended between floor 52 and the lobby. June Keller stood near the security desk with both hands pressed to her mouth, crying because someone had told her the truth. Conrad saw me. At first, his eyes passed over me the way they always had. Then something changed. He knew. Maybe it was my face. Maybe it was the fact that I did not lower my eyes. He twisted toward me and spat, "You!" The officer pulled him forward. I stepped close enough for only him to hear me and said, "I understood every number." That was the hardest revenge I ever gave him. Not yelling, not begging, not proving I was angry. Just letting him know that the woman he called useless had read his crime like a book and handed his fate to the law. The lobby erupted in whispers as they took him outside. Police lights flashed against the glass. Conrad, who once called me invisible, was now watched by everyone. His name would be in court records. His watch, his suits, his cold smile, none of it could save him. June Keller was cleared before the weekend ended. The stolen money was frozen before it disappeared. And Mr. Whitaker called me to his office on Monday morning. I thought I was going to be fired for opening a locked drawer. Instead, Mr. Whitaker stood when I walked in. A man of his age and wealth stood for me, the cleaner. That alone nearly broke me. He placed my envelope on his desk and said, "Mrs. Cross, you saved this company from a thief, and you saved an innocent employee from disgrace." I tried to apologize for the drawer, but he lifted one hand. "No," he said. "You saw danger, and you acted with precision. That is not misconduct. That is courage." Then he offered me a position in compliance records, daytime hours, full benefits, and more money than I had ever earned in my life. I cried so hard I had to cover my face. Not because of the money, though I needed it badly. I cried because for the first time in that tower, someone had spoken my name with respect. That was 6 years ago. My mother lives with me now in a warm little house outside the city. Her hands still ache, but she has good doctors, good medicine, and a garden of red geraniums she tends every morning. June Keller became like family to us. Every Thanksgiving, she brings banana bread and tells everyone I saved her life, though I always tell her the truth saved both of us. As for Conrad Pike, he went to prison, lost his license, lost his friends, and lost the power he worshipped. I do not celebrate another person's ruin, but I do believe consequences are holy when they protect the innocent. Sometimes I still pass women cleaning offices late at night, and I make sure to look them in the eye. I say good evening. I say thank you, because no honest worker is small. No uniform makes a person invisible. No accent, no age, no tired hands, no humble job can measure the size of a human soul. So if someone is looking down on you today, let them look. Keep your dignity. Keep your proof. Keep your courage. One day, the same people who called you useless may discover you were the only one in the room paying attention. Commentary, discussion, explanation, and lessons. Now let's talk about this story and look at what really happened here. This is not just a story about a cleaner and a cruel boss. This is a story about power, pride, silence, and truth. Maribel was treated like she was nothing. Her boss insulted her every night. He looked at her uniform, her job, and her simple life, and he decided she was weak. But that was his biggest mistake. He never understood that quiet people also watch, listen, think, and remember. The most powerful part of this story is not only the revenge. It is the way Maribel handled it. She did not scream. She did not fight in anger. She did not try to prove herself with loud words. She waited, stayed calm, and used proof. That is what made her strong. Conrad had money, status, and a big office, but Maribel had truth. And in the end, truth was stronger than his power. This story also shows how dangerous pride can be. Conrad thought everyone below him was stupid. Because of that, he became careless. He hid his secret badly because he never believed a cleaner could understand it. That is a real lesson. Never look down on people. You never know who is paying attention. You never know who can change everything. There is also a deep emotional lesson here. Maribel was scared, but she still did the right thing. Courage does not mean you are not afraid. Courage means you feel fear and still choose honesty. She could have ignored the secret and protected herself, but an innocent woman was going to be blamed. So Maribel took a risk, and that risk saved someone's life and changed her own future. The lesson from this story is simple but strong. Respect every honest worker. Do not judge people by their clothes, job, accent, or position. And if someone insults you, do not let their words decide your value. Stay calm, stay smart, keep your dignity. Sometimes the person standing quietly in the corner is the one holding the truth that can bring down the whole empire. The end